Welcome to Personal Development Mastery Podcast, where you will find both the inspiration to grow and the actions to implement towards your next level. I am your host, 𝘁·𝗸𝗲𝘄𝘆𝘀, and I've been on a journey of personal development and self-mastery for 6 years now, and my mission is to inspire you to stand out and take action towards living your best life. In this podcast, I invite myself inside the minds of authors, thought leaders, entrepreneurs, exceptional people who will inspire you to improve your life and also give you actions you can take and implement. So, on my ongoing journey of the podcast, on Thursday's episodes, I now focus on consolidation. Repetition is the mother of all learning, as they say. So instead of adding more knowledge, I revisit the previous episodes and consolidate the wisdom imparted by my guests. In today's episode, we will cover the topic of trusting our intuition, listening to that body intelligence of ours, and also those acts of faith we take in life sometimes, or we are called to take them anyway. So I revisit 4 of the previous episodes, and my intention is to distill the wisdom of my guests on this topic and to share it with you in a way that you will find something that clicks, something that inspires you to take some kind of action as a result. So my 4 guests we will listen to today are Paul Shepherd, Ches Edwards, Toni Jehan, and Nicole Laino. And the first one we will listen to is Paul Shepherd, who was featured on episode 107. Paul's is one of the top 10 most popular episodes of the podcast, and that says a lot. It's certainly one very intriguing conversation. Paul Shepherd is a Sydney-based 7-figure entrepreneur and coach who combines science and spirituality. And let's listen to him in this next snippet discussing intuition, and he calls it our inner guide or inner CEO.
Yeah, think of it like your inner CEO or your inner guide. They're guiding you constantly. But we're so in our head, right? And this is a lesson that, younger brother taught me and quite a few people in my life that, get out of your head and get into your heart. And I couldn't comprehend that, right? I was so in my head from an analytical perspective and business and structure, and that's just how I am. But I always had these feelings that I couldn't actually logically make sense of until I started to test it. And the more I started to listen to that and tune in, and that was predominantly through meditation and contemplation and having time to myself, off technology, more time in nature. So I was able to listen to this inner knowing a lot more. Mm-hmm. And I guess the realization was that stop looking for things outside myself and stop looking for the answers through somebody else, because all the answers are within. The problem is we can't listen to ourselves because we've been so programmed and there's so much chatter going on up in the mind. So the minute I could kind of step out of the head and more into the body and then observe this monkey mind and the chatter that would go on, the more I started to observe things.
The next part we will listen from Paul is when he spoke about our decision-making strategy and how our body communicates all the answers with us through what we call intuition.
The biggest thing we can all take away is learning our decision-making strategy. What is our decision-making strategy? How does our body communicate with us? Listening to our intuition, and that was my biggest takeaway, was get out of the head, listen to the body, because it always knows best. It holds all the answers for us. Might not hold the answers on how to, manage your team and, manage your finances in a business perspective, or, navigate a certain challenge, in a relationship, but it always knows what's best for us, and it's going to show up in ways that is an energetic response as opposed to words. And that's where we need to then learn what that feeling or that response is. Mm-hmm. So that was my biggest takeaway. And that even today, looking back, there's different techniques, different things we can do to start to calibrate that intuition. So you get this feeling, and it happens again and again, but you don't know what it means because there's no translation manual. You can't go to Google Translate and type in this feeling and then get a response. It doesn't work like that. So you've got to have a few experiences and test and measure, and then all of a sudden you've now got this feedback loop, and you're like, right, that's that feeling again. Yeah, okay, I know it's not good. All right, so do I have to give it a definition? Not necessarily. It just means that I need to avoid that particular situation because it's not meant for me. So that's been my biggest learning out of all of these things. And our body intelligence holds all the answers if we learn how to tap into that.
Body intelligence holds all the answers if we learn to tap into it. And these words come from Paul, who has spent $500,000 in personal development programs. And that for me shows a lot about the importance of allowing our body intelligence guide us and give us the answers to the questions that we have about our life. One other thing that we discussed on my conversation with Paul Shepherd was surrender. And he talked about the Surrender Experiment, a book of Michael Singer's. And he said that magic happens when we surrender. And he explained his own example. So let's listen to him discuss this.
Surrender. That was something I learned a couple of years ago now. Mm-hmm. And I read Michael Singer's book, The Surrender Experiment.
Yes.
And that really made me reflect. That was a big lesson for me, actually. Especially because I couldn't recognize the bricks that were being thrown at me. I had to learn to surrender. And the moment I surrender, even a project I was working on 18 months ago, so I was running a global health brand, and it was tough. There was a lot of friction, a lot of resistance in all aspects of that, what we were doing. And I literally just left and went overseas for a couple of weeks and just let go of everything. I totally surrendered. And magic happened. I had no idea how I was going to, survive, what I was going to do. I'd lost this identity. I'd lost this business. I'd lost this, and I walked away from it because it wasn't right. And there was this so much resistance. But the surrender experiment for me was liberating. It was freeing. And once I had fully surrendered, new opportunities came in, the right opportunities. And I was a lot more in tune with what was right versus what wasn't right for me. Mm-hmm. So that's hard to do for someone who likes to control their reality. Yeah. I know a lot of your listeners probably like to have control of their life. But surrendering was one of the most powerful experiences. It taught me a lot.
And the last snippet by Paul we will listen today is a very important one, where he talks about how to calibrate our intuition.
You can start practicing some of the examples I mentioned around calibrating your intuition, right? So it could be when it comes to dating, it could be with your colleagues, it could be just watching people walk past the street. It could be walking into a restaurant or a cafe going, I wonder what that person's going through. And if you can have the conversation with them to get some sort of feedback, you can just set up really simple experiments. I wonder, is that person having a good day based on their energy levels? And you can ask them, hey, good morning, good evening, are you having a good day? And it might jolt them at first, but that's a really simple thing you can do to start to listen to yourself and trust that. And the more that you practice that, the more you will trust it. And the more you trust it, the better the decisions you are, or the better decisions you'll make, and the faster you'll get on your own path in life. And then you'll know which programs are right for you.
some simple things like that and practicing over time can make a very big difference. So check it out. Let's listen next to my second guest for today, which is 𝘁rep𝗸𝗲𝘄𝘆𝘀, who was featured on episode 81. 𝘁 is a meditation teacher and a spiritual guide. And we will listen to him talk about the importance of trusting and learning to trust. And very importantly, what does trust mean exactly?
When we're working with learning to trust, we are often using mental concepts, which are, again, are valuable, better than not trusting, but usually working with the mind. Something happened in life, and initially it feels like it's a disaster. And I don't like that, and I'm struggling with it, and it's a big challenge. And then I've got to go through a couple of mental steps to go, oh, wait a minute, no, I need to trust that everything will work out all right. I've got to, something's about to happen in life, and I'm uncertain of it. And I'm uneasy with that. Oh, no, I got to go to a mental idea that goes, oh, no, I've learned that I need to trust that everything works out for the best. I need to trust people. I can't trust people all the time. There's no, like, I'm going to get betrayed. People are going to do all sorts of things. Life's going to do what it does. My house is going to burn down. There's going to be things that happen in life. So the beautiful thing is when we come into a trust, we say, what am I really learning to trust? Me. I'm trusting that I, the true I, the pure I am, the unwavering grace of being, is going to be awakened and present to meet whatever shows up. I don't know that it's all going to work out all right. My loved one is in the hospital, and I trust that they're going to pull through. I don't know that, and maybe they don't. But can I trust that I'm resting in love, and I'm going to be able to meet my grief and meet my sadness and meet my pain and allow it, rested in love. There's a wonderful teaching that says allowing is not an activity of the mind. Allowing is the very nature of our being. So we don't have to go through these mental constructs or affirmations to get back to a sense of trust. It is simply the awakening of the unwavering grace of peace that we are. And I trust that that is going to be present no matter what happens, whether that loved one passes or whether my house burns down or whether I lose the job. Yeah. So we trust our truth. That's what we're really trusting, is we're trusting our truth.
Allowing is not an activity of the mind. Allowing is the very nature of our being. Let's listen next to my third guest for today, Toni Jehan, who was featured in episode 31. Toni is a spiritual teacher and a soul realignment practitioner. And one of the things that she spoke about was how we can learn to trust this guidance. And let's listen to her talk about this connection to our deeper self, how to connect to our deeper self.
It's a subject that is very open to acceptance or non-acceptance. For me, spirituality is very much just connecting to something deeper than what we just see on an everyday level. It's being aware that there's another energy or another presence that is within us, other than what we see on a daily level, and tapping into that in all these different ways that are available for us right now. And knowing that there is guidance, that we're not alone, fumbling through the world blindly, just trying to cope with our own little physical bodies and our little minds, and the world is full of everything that frightens us. You know, there is help there. There is a deeper element to us. So that really is looking into that, keeping an open mind on that, and seeing what comes forward. So yeah, to me, it's all about the bigger element and tapping into that and being aware of that and seeing what it can do for you and the world, basically.
Let's hear Toni also discuss what is our higher self or divine self and how we can connect to this.
You know, we also have a higher self, which is us, but it's that part of us which doesn't incarnate into the physical form. So we're just a fragment of that. So it knows all about us. It knows about why we're here, what we've come to do, achieve, etc. So again, that's always trying to guide us. It's always trying to communicate with us. And you know, if you get that, and I'm sure people will identify with this, sometimes you get a gut feeling about something, or there's this knowing sense. Suddenly this flash of inspiration, it's like, I know what I've got to do. And you get that real feeling. And it's like, yes, I can do this. And then almost instantly, all these other thoughts start coming in. You can't do that. You haven't got the time. You haven't got the money, the qualification, the ability. And then we start listening to that. And it's like, no, actually, no, you're right. I can't do that. We feel like we're talking to ourselves. But so we go with that, and it leads us off down the wrong pathway. And then things go wrong. And it's like, I knew I should have done that because you did know. So the more we start trusting when we get those flashes of inspiration, the more things are going to work for us, because it's never going to lead you wrong. You know, you get a fork in the road, it's trying to say, go left. And our ego is trying to say, go right. And we're going to listen to that more than we are. So it's fostering this connection and listening to those body feelings. Often that's where we're getting this guidance from initially. But the more you start building this connection to your own team of guides, they're always going to be there for you.
And we will listen to one more snippet by Toni, where she spoke about having trust in our higher self and in those leaps of faith that we are required to take in our lives.
But often there was a lack of willingness to go with the flow of change. People say they want change, but when change presented to them, they're not quite so willing to take those steps.
Yes.
And the thing is, your divine higher self that you're connecting to will have the next steps in place. It won't always show them to you. Sometimes it's going to be a bit scary. Sometimes you're going to think you're being forced to take a leap of faith and you can't see what's ahead, but you're being challenged to trust because it loves you, it cares for you, it wants the best for you. It's not going to leave you hanging. It's not going to leave you dangling. But sometimes, as we said earlier, you need to be taken from one situation to another, and that can require this leap of faith.
And let's listen to one more short snippet by one more of my guests, Nicole Laino, who was featured in episode 112. Nicole is a business and success coach, a Reiki master. She calls herself a type A hippie. So let's listen to her talking about the same topic, but from a slightly different perspective. So she spoke about acting in faith and letting go of the outcome, which is so important.
And that's the secret to manifesting and to creating great outcomes, is to not care about the outcome. But how do we do that? And I say to myself every single day during the launch, probably 100 times a day, I will either get the result that I want or the lesson that I need. And to let that set you at ease so that you can continue taking inspired action and not getting in your own way. Because that's usually what happens. We want to create these big changes, that requires us to do things that are outside of our comfort zone. And the trust is trusting that if you move forward in faith, the better thing will come for you. And if it doesn't mean that it never will. It means that this is just the next lesson for you in getting what you want. If you can move through life with that, you can manifest anything that you want. We stop ourselves. We get disappointed with the outcome and we say, this doesn't work. I don't think I can do this anymore. And we curl in a hole where we stop acting in faith. Yes. And that's what stifles the manifestation. So that is about like, and when we talk about being high vibe, the high vibe is just being able to be positively moving through and enjoying the process and not judging it the entire time.
I hope you found something valuable among these parts of the conversations, and also something actionable, something you can implement yourself. If you enjoyed this episode, I certainly intend to do more of them to condense the wisdom contained in these conversations and distill it in a way into actionable items that you can pick up and implement in order to change and grow and improve your life. But I would like your help. Tell me, what is your biggest challenge? What kind of content would you like to hear? Go to personaldevelopmentmasterypodcast.com and send me a message. And a quick question before I go. Have you ever thought of having your own podcast, sharing your voice, making an impact, but you don't have the time or the computer skills to learn how to create and launch a podcast? If that resonates, then I have a solution for you. A solution that takes away all the complexity and allows you to concentrate only on creating your content. Go to my website, 𝘁repetidas.com, and get your free copy of my guide on how to create and launch your podcast in 7 simple steps. And until next time, stand out, don't fit in.